creative professional working with clients and peers, I often find myself in a loop, constantly typing out feedback on multiple devices and tools. Discovering Pacto has allowed me to eliminate typed feedback and instantly send a recorded video with my action items. With Pacto, I can easily review videos, websites, images, 3D files, and audio files. My feedback can then be sent as a link with clear action items faster than any other tool out there. Pacto has changed my daily lifestyle. I now have more time than ever to do what I love most.
Hello, everyone. Damian Borba here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, I'm very, very excited to have a friend, old friend, Adhemas Batista, fellow Brazilian creative. As some of other creatives said, probably one of the most brilliant creatives out there. And super excited to hear your thoughts on creativity in the era of AI. So there's a lot to unpack here. But first, can you introduce yourself, your background, how you ended up as like at Deutsch, for example, a little bit of your location, background, your story.
Thanks, Damien. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the space, for the time. I started in 1996. I was 15 years old back then. Um, I started with the internet, like the way the sort of like the internet started with, you know, building websites and working with, like front page, creating like code and making like web pages. Like we still had like some sort of like catalog for all the pages. It was like very early stages, and I learned design almost like not really knowing I was becoming a designer. To be honest, I'm self-taught, so I got into the industry, got into some studios, working at advertising agencies. Then I had an opportunity to work. That's all back in Brazil, in São Paulo. Then I had an opportunity to work uh, at big agencies, and I worked on a brand that was special to me called Havaianas, the flip flops. That's where my work sort of got attention, and I was invited to work abroad, and then I landed in Los Angeles in
Wow.
2006, and I've been here since. Love the city, love the weather, and I think I created my roots here, and then I ended up at Deutsch in 2018. Um, I was invited by Pete Favre to lead the design team. Pete Favre, former boss, that I have like a lot of special love for him. He gave me the space to build a design department at the agency. He's retired now, but since then, I've built a design team at Deutsch. We have almost 30 designers working all different
Nice.
brands for Walmart, for Taco Bell, for PetSmart, Dr. Pepper, Snapple, um, NerdWallet. There is so many clients, Verizon Value Brands, and there is so many. We have been, you know, very busy with work and creating all sorts of work, like from almost like we call ourselves hybrid designers in a way, because it's a mix of like UI with branding with campaign. So it's kind of like a mix of all the disciplines in one place, and the designers like flex like illustration, typography, and motion graphics. It's kind of like flexing our muscles, and it gets like very entertaining and fun. um, yeah, I think that's the best way to work in advertising.
That's amazing. And back then, like when we started, like I also started in I think the Flash era, like the websites, the banners and all those things. learning back then was a lot harder, right? We had to buy books. Maybe there was no such thing as YouTube the way it is now, right? And the Flash community was really, really amazing. I remember one of our biggest advocates for Pacto, right, is PJ Pereira, and he was running Agência Click there in Brazil, and I think you guys worked together there. How you mentioned Havaianas? How did you build your style? How did you build your, let's say, taste? How did you kind of iterate it, like, to iterate to get to a place where now it was a style that drew so much attention?
Yes, first PJ, such a great creative, like an inspiration. Worked with him back in Brazil, learned a lot from him. Super smart guy, super creative, and one of the guys that was always like leading the charge in technology and learning, and like he's always pushing himself. So I always love to collaborate with him. I'm sending him big hug.
Nice. Will
It's
do.
been a while. And yeah, so I think over time, I mean, when you're self-taught, you kind of like, and I've have talks about this with students on Art Center and Otis, and I think that's the biggest difference from like going to school, right? Like at school, you learn some shortcuts, which is great, like you kind of have a taste for a lot of things, and then you kind of like, if you don't like that thing, you kind of take out of your sort of like range of things to try. I had to try to understand that I didn't like it, which is a thing that a self-taught person needs to do. You kind of like, you get into something and be like, now that I learned about this, I don't know if I really enjoy it. And then, but there are also the things that I kind of like, no, I really enjoyed this thing. And then that's, I think, where I kind of like start getting to a bolder and colorful design work, because when I did the Hawaiian thing, I think it was where I was like, wow, I can do these things and still get paid for it. Like it's amazing. So I think that was my sort of like wake up call. It's kind of like, now I know what I really want to do. And then from there, I worked as a freelancer. I kind of like worked on a lot of projects that kind of like had that same take. But I'm always like, as a self-taught, you gotta always be like self-improving, self-learning, and I always like love to do that. And I keep pushing that style and trying to find new ways to kind of like bring colors to life. I do have to work a lot of times on minimalistic and other things, and but
No
for
drop
that,
shadows.
no drop shadows ever. Please don't. Like, I have a hat. I'm not using the hat because I'm losing my hair. I'm like getting like freaking out about it. But anyway, but I guess yeah, once you start like you understand business objectives and you know all these things, you can really understand like, can I apply my style to it or not? And I think over time I learned that. And yeah, so I'm always looking for the opportunity when it can be colorful and bolder and vibrant, but I always like also understanding the business needs. I think it's important when you are in the industry.
That's amazing to hear. Yeah, it's not just taking risks, but it's kind of taking calculated risks, right? You
Yeah,
try one thing and then you see how the financial business world react to it. Then you can
yeah,
iterate more and more. That's super smart. That's very, very smart. One of the things that we have here at Pacto is this core belief that, and not everyone agrees with this, like that creativity is uniquely human. That spark, that initial thought, that initial, oh, I now see a future that doesn't exist yet, and I will build it. So that drive, that willingness, that initial spark to do something new, we truly feel it's uniquely human, and AI will never be able to do that, to create that spark. What do you think about that? Is creativity uniquely human?
I think so. And yeah, I completely agree with that statement. I use a lot of AI now in my workflow, but it needs I think I struggled a lot at the beginning, to be honest, to like incorporate AI. And like I think there's many issues with it still, and I think we're gonna get to a point that we'll fix. It's new, it's novelty, so like everything that's new and takes out of comfort zone, like it's hard for everyone. But I don't think AI can be creative, and I don't know if it's gonna get there or not. But like I think that's a very human ability. Um, and we are also very creative in a way that to manipulate AI, which is
Yeah.
something that I don't think they can they will be able to do. Like we are able to, like to illustrate that. Like I saw a guy that put like AI to talk to AI, and it was so funny to see that. Like AI didn't know it was talking to AI, and now like you see like how humans bring creativity to it. So I think that initial spark is very important. And there is also a thing. It was when I was at art center later last year. Someone said, I forgot his name. I would love to give him the quote, but like um, he said something that was it struck me. It was, I didn't go to school to learn Photoshop, and I think that sums up. It's kind of like we didn't go to school or we didn't learn to make things because of the tools, right? These are tools. Like, and I had a teacher for figure drawing because I love figure drawing, but I never really had the opportunity to kind of like really go to school. And so like I did 6 months course with the guy, and he's funny because like he made videos even. His name is Sheldon, and sending Sheldon a warm abraço. He was like, to prove that he was good at design, he'd take like a chocolate bar and then just make a drawing, and a really good drawing with a chocolate bar on the paper, and then he'll say like it does not matter the tool, right? Like your skills is the tool. What really matters is like what you put in the on the work. So I think that goes in the same way. I understand all the buzz about it, but I think when we get the sense of what really is, I think we understand that the creative is the one in control
That's
on this.
amazing.
Yeah.
So with you, we validated our core belief, but again, not everyone agrees with that. I was speaking with Pablo Stanley, a good friend as well, in another episode, and he was saying like when AI will be able to lie to us, then it's kind of getting creative, right? Because who knows if the models are hiding something or are not telling the labs, the scientists something. There's no way of knowing. It's literally a black box, right? That you input something and you get an output. But it'll be an interesting world where AI can start kind of acting more and more as a human, to the point that it will lie and then hide stuff. To I remember I seen an experiment of an AI that was kind of almost lying to self-preserve itself, to not die, because it felt it was gonna be closed. It was be like the user would stop using it. So he went that direction like that. That was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's the level of creativity. I also agree with that. And to be honest, it's like hard to say like when you get what I mean. I don't think we can stop it. Like unless you unplug all the machines, and that's not gonna happen. Like we know that's not gonna happen. So um, I also don't think that the way our and then we got political, but like the governments are going and all that. Like I don't believe they are really interested to put like rules around it. I think there is a big race to who's gonna get first there, and we might see um, more and more of that. Like AI lying, or because of competition, because of like different factors. But I guess the humans, it's always like topping off creativity, right? Like you get to a point in creativity and then you need to top that off. And I think that's our job. Like you think about like originality, like all things that have been created have them like really been created. Like I don't think they are, like I think we are always topping each other, and like learning from another and kind of like creating something new. If AI learns something, we're gonna learn something else that's gonna like help elevate. Like we are strong competition, I think. So
Yeah.
I think we just met our rival at this point.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And another big belief that we have, it's more like reading the market right now. We see a lot more value for especially creative agencies. In the past, it was in production workflows, right? Like building how many banners, how many these and that and that. So the money was more there in the production. Now, because of AI is doing that in a very cheap way, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper, we feel the value goes back to the creative side, like the creativity side, the human side. So the financial value, the financial opportunity will go there. You mentioned that you use a ton of AI, and the way I feel AI is helping creatives is almost like we took another step. I graduated before doing Flash. I graduated in industrial design at a high school. Like it was a it's called Cefet, like in Brazil. It's a technical high school in industrial design, and I was doing my drawings on paper on these big things, like in with rulers and doing math to do perspective and all that. And years later, now it's all in the computer. So it's almost like we went up a level. But with AI in the creative world, we took a very, very big step, right? So we're in this new era that humans will be kind of more and more critical, more important. What tools do you use today? What's your stack and what's your maybe before and now with AI? How did that
So
change?
I I don't like as much to generate images. I have been generating a very specific style. If you see my work on Instagram now, is like there is a very specific style that it's kind of like portraits, and that's just to help me. The same way I used to have like stock images before, I think it's just replacing that. It's kind of like a very simple uh, usage for portraits. Now, what I really love about it is something that I wanted to do and always in my career. Like I started, like I said, I used to code websites, but it was like HTML, very basic stuff. As you grew as designer, obviously I had to focus. I was in Flash as well, so I knew a little bit of action script, but it wasn't something that I always like get it deep into it. Like I never could like do creative code. And then AI came, and I was like, no, I can. you know. And I have been very deep into kind of like processing code, uh, using Claude and sometimes ChatGPT, but Claude is way better to work with it to create like creative code. And I have been adding this to my work because I know the basics of code. So like I bought a course on like creative code for processing. I learned the basics, and then from that, I kind of like know how to direct AI to kind of like get me what I need and what I want to do. So that's something that I have been doing a lot, like creating modular grids and modular animations and bringing that to all my color palette. It's kind of like it's so fun. Like the results that you come to it. So I have been using a lot of that, and obviously also I think now I have. I mean, there is also always this struggle when you are an immigrant in America. Like you want to perfect the language, you want to perfect writing, you want to perfect everything, and there is always like that pressure in your head because like you need to be at the top. And I think us coming from a different country, we always put ourselves in that shoe. Like we need to do twice to get to the same place, right? So I use a lot for also like help me to write better, to kind of like um, find ways to kind of like the copy that I deliver it sound better. So I use AI a lot for that too, and also sometimes to help me concept things. Like I have an idea and then kind of like drop in what do you think about this, or what are all the ways that you see this concept coming to life, and then it's like a back and forth kind of like almost like a creative partner in a way. As a designer, a lot of times you work on your own, you focus on your task at hand, and that's how most designers work. And I think it helps to kind of like expand on ideas. So it's not about like AI is creative. I think it's more like expanding the knowledge that I have about that idea and where I can get to.
That's awesome. What is your process? We heard from some creatives, kind of if you look at a spectrum, there are kind of two ways of creating with AI. One is you just do a very simple prompt and then you see what comes back and then you build on top of that. You
Mhm.
iterate on top of that. Or you spend on the other extreme, you spend a lot of time thinking about all the rules, all the flags, everything you need to set, all the like create this massive prompt that's super detailed. Where are you in the spectrum? What's your process today?
I think I'm halfway. I don't like just the simple prompt because I kind of want to direct where I want to get, but also I don't do the massive thing because like that's also I think it kind of like you close too much what the result you can get. So kind of like I like kind of like the back and forth kind of thing, like give them a sort of direction, get a result from that, like build upon, and then like get some other result, and then like almost like iteration process. I think it works better for me. It's almost like a conversation, and yeah, and if you're creative, you usually talk a lot with yourself. So like there is someone to talk to. It's kind of like it helps.
Yeah, that's fun. That's funny. And you said you as a creative director you manage 30 designers, right? There's a lot of people there. And sometimes you have to transfer your thoughts most of the time, right? To, oh, let's build this. And then they do something. It's not like the way you think. And then you have to iterate and say, no. Do you get mad at AI the same way do you get frustrated with AI when it's not giving you, like, and how do you deal with that?
No, I don't get frustrated, especially because well, when I'm coding and with creative code, it's kind of like there's a limit on like what is the generation that it can give you. Because like when you start to get long, like when you're building like a creative tool on processing, kind of like the code start to get long, and then kind of like I need to find out another way to kind of like do this. But then you get frustrated because like stop generating, and like ooh, you know. But I mean, I don't get frustrated. Like I am amazed still with this sort of like workflow. Um, it's so fast, and it's like I always kind of like being fast with my design approach. So like just having that back and forth really quickly, it's really amazing. So no, I'm on the bright side of things as far as we go. Like I like the
Nice.
fast moving kind of like pace of it, and you just, and if it's like, if I'm not getting what I really want, it's because I am like giving the wrong directions. And that helps me even like think about like when I'm directing my own team, like you start reflecting, and like if you're not getting like the result that you want, it's probably because you're giving the wrong directions, like
It's
it's not,
awesome.
it's like, it's kind of like, I think you start like really like reflecting. It's like I'm probably the one that are not explaining what I need perfect. So I need to work on that, my prompt to my team, rather than like expecting them to read my mind.
That's amazing. I have a comment here from Zach. We work together at Adobe. Hey, Zach, great to hear from you. This is a live stream, so if you guys have questions or if you want to comment, please do. We are always here to learn and share your thoughts. Zach is still at Adobe, I believe, doing a ton of AI there. So, yeah, we agree that AI is there to help, but humans are in control, right? That's very, very important. Do you use, or your team are testing a new tool, something that's kind of different, that's more, oh, I saw something here that I didn't see before. This is a new approach. Is there something new? Like, for example, we see these like terms, vibe coding, vibe creating. Like, is there something new that you guys are testing?
We always, I mean, when you're working in advertising, I think we always looking for, we need to be at the top of a lot of things at the same time. So like, for example, when NFTs came out, right? We had to kind of like quickly jump in and understand that technology and kind of like learn so we can like provide to our clients. Metaverse, same thing, like you have to learn, you have to go in so you can like come up with the ideas. Same with AI, we jumped in right in, and we're always kind of like looking for ways of like adding to the work, making things faster, because it helps productivity. I think what we're looking, and I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe that's an industry-wide problem that we need to solve, which is how we can generate assets quicker, faster. And I don't think there is still like, I mean, there is many other tools coming up, like there is Gen Studio coming from Adobe. There is also Adobe Express coming up with solutions to generate many assets. We are looking into many tools to kind of like get to that point. And I think there is still room for uh, finding the best practice, the best way to kind of like generate thousand banners quickly, and those are the ones that we are investing focus at the moment. But also, as I have been testing most of like sort of like creative tools, generate video, generate images, generate. I think it's just to get to know them and how they work and how to understand. Like I think we need to, even if I don't use for my personal stuff or for my, we need to understand those tools. We need to know what's coming and know how to use them, and I think, and then if it makes sense for the work, we use them. So like one example to give it to you is like when we do a lot of pitches, like we advertising, we always pitching work.
A lot of slides.
Yeah, a lot of slides, a lot of, and one thing that we always struggle in advertising was creating a presentation and keeping things cohesive, like the imagery, right? Like we had to go to stock images like Getty or Adobe Stock, or all these, and then you like spend time looking for photos and looking for this and for that. So today it's easier with creating images, because you can like create describe that style, and if you describe it really well, you can create like a modular prompt, and then you can generate all the images you need for that presentation. Once it's approved, then we go to the right person, we go to the right photographer, we go to the right that has that style, and then, but for presentation's sake, it helps a lot and it keeps things consistent, because especially the way things are moving, like it's so fast paced. I think like we need to get things approved quicker. So like, and everything is visual, right? Like clients are visual, we are visual, like we are visual beings, right? So when you see that consistency, you see how things will sort of like look like, it really helps with the process, or it helps with approval. And I think we are seeing like an increase of speed to get things like
Oh,
through the
nice.
line, which is a good thing, like we get that aligned. Let's say we want to shoot all the photography with, everybody's wearing like a blue shirt, or white shoes, and they are like in this sort of like New York scenario or whatever. It's really hard to find like all these images that kind of align with the same color contrast
Yeah.
lenses, like you want a fisheye lenses or whatever. It's really hard to find that. But once you have those components in your description, you get those images, and then it's easier to kind of like approve the concepts. We never go fully AI to kind of like find a product. I don't know if we will go at some point, uh, but at the moment, what we do is like we create those concepts, get the idea through, and then we hire the right people to do it.
That's great. That's great to hear. One of the probably biggest struggles from creatives is inspiration, right? Finding inspiration, knowing like how I can run some sort of simulation in my brain and then, oh, that's it, and then try that. Uh, how do you find inspiration before AI and now with AI? Did it change? Is it the same way for you? How do you get out of that? I'm stuck. I need to get inspired.
Um, I think uh, always from throughout my career, like I think there is a misconception that inspiration you'll find by walking the park and looking at trees and things like that. I think that's such a misconception. I think creatives, like when you are in the weeds, you kind of like you have the pressure, you have a briefing, and I think I find a lot of inspiration within the briefing, um, understanding the problem, understanding what is the solution. I think helps kind of like get your in the mindset. Sometimes stepping away from the computer and kind of like taking a deep breath, it really helps. Um, but I think that's the first step. And then when I'm stuck, I mean, I collect books, I collect inspiration from the internet, Pinterest and Behance and all those places. I do all the things that all designers do, checking for work, Instagram, whatever. But I think the inspiration really needs to be tied to the task at hand, and I think that's the best way to kind of like get inspired. So throughout our process, well, we get the brief, and it's kind of like we need to create. I don't know. We're working on a brand that is for dinner. It's dishware, right? And it's really cool about it. It's like the process of making those plates and making those bowls, and so like we go deep in like what is the process to make those things, and kind of like maybe the color palette will come from it, maybe the typeface will come from it, and then like all these elements help shape the vibe of the work.
That's really really cool. Um, how do you communicate creative intent today? Do you do it in a specific way? Do you have challenges expressing your creative intent? Like how do you have any sort of framework or tools that you use as you said, I'm learning how to communicate to express myself better. Do you have a model? Like, do you have a process to kind of maximize your understanding?
I think it's I would say we don't have like a tool yet. Like I've been learning about Pacto, and I think it's a great tool to kind of like express um, feedback, especially. I think that's something that it's very helpful. But I think it's kind of like I think when we're dealing with, I think empathy is the best way to kind of like understand how to give feedback and understand. I think we need to understand, like, put ourselves in other people's shoes. And I mean, when you're talking to a junior designer or talking to a senior designer, or, like, I've been there. I've been there. I know um, how scary it can get, how difficult it can get. Like, you don't have the same experience or background or tools to get like um, the same speed that I get today, like, and I've been there. Like, the process is a little different from that for them, and they will grow to get to that point. But knowing, having empathy for that, their learning curve, I think it helps when you're giving feedback and when you like giving directions and like I think it's the way to deliver that message. It really helps, and also sometimes, like, and a lot of times I'd say getting hands on. Like, help them, like, just hey, this is how it's done. This is how it should be done.
It's
I think
awesome.
that helps a lot. The process, it just needs a little bit more patience. But I mean, in the time of machines, if we're not giving patience to humans, like, I think then it's not worth it to have AI. So I think more and more, I think AI allow us, it give us time to kind of like create stronger relationships with humans. So I think that's what we should take from. It's like it takes time from that, like, mundane tasks, like spending time making a comp to sell an idea. It's like we don't spend too much time on that anymore. I think if you spend more time like talking to a person, that is more productive.
Yeah, that's it. That I never forget teaching. At one point in my life, I was teaching at UCSD, and that was so rewarding, so amazing because that younger human being is probably overthinking a lot of stuff, right? Like going into thoughts that only create noise. So being that mentor that can really help is is really critical. One of the things that I'm curious about, do you use AI for brainstorming? For example, we have this new feature that we got a lot of inspiration from your problem. Like you mentioned that you have to leave comments everywhere and all that. So we thought, what if we could just allow people to talk, just say the words, and then Pacto would transcribe everything, remove the filler words, do all the work, and then paste it back into that input box. And we didn't know how to call that feature. It took me hours. Like, oh my God, how do I call this? It has to be simple, it has to be. We ended up with speak for instant text. But the way we got there was very interesting. It was the first time I did that. I asked AI to give me 50 variations of this idea,
Mhm.
and I defined constraints, and then one of them was like speak for instant text. Like, that's it. Like, do you do that too? Like, do you use
I,
AI for
uh,
brainstorming?
I think the same way you do. It's kind of like you have a base, right? You have a base of what you want. You have a base where you can get, and then yes, and then kind of like brainstorm, um, and then modify what I get later. I think it's part of the process now. It seems, to be honest, it starts to feel like, have I always done like this? Like it almost feels that way now. It's kind of like it doesn't feel like it's something new to me anymore. Like it's almost like I don't really remember how it was before. Because like that's part of the process now. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the same way I open Gmail or Photoshop, I open AI to kind of like start my process, which is very like part of the day now. And I guess like brainstorming, I just don't ask like psychological questions because then we get into philosophical things.
Deep, deep. We get deep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got deep into it. Like, no, rather keep that for my therapist.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, there's a lot of people out there that are scared with AI, or especially creatives, especially young people that are like lost. And I think more importantly, people that are older like us that are just scared. Like this is different. This is new. Like this is totally out of the norm. The way you can generate, the way you can run simulations is a lot faster now, a lot more available. Do you have any message for these creatives that are scared with AI? Like any way that you talk, like do that self talk to talk to your mind to calm down? Like let's do this. This is part. Do you have any tips or message for that
Yes,
person?
I I think they're rightfully so to be scared. It's new. We don't know what's gonna happen, but I grew up afraid of the dark, and I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares, and the way that I coped with it, it was facing it, and it was the way that I could understand. And now I can walk at night with no lights on and I feel good about it. And it's kind of like that's the same way I think about AI. Is like you can be scared, but you should learn how it works and what it can do for you, because then you understand like what it is and how you can adapt or even like just hate, but you need to understand what it is. And I think that's the best way, at least in my view, is kind of like how can you, like, you can't just be scared of something if you don't really know how big is the monster. So I think that's the best way, best analogy that I can make. Yeah.
There's a lot of unknowns there, like, and because of that, people are scared. But I think I agree 100% with you. We need to just play with it, like just get your hands dirty there, like play with it, see what happens.
Yeah.
Everyone is kind of lost, right? Everyone is trying their best. There's no one person that knows, oh, this is the best way. Like there's
Yeah. I
everyone
think
is
we should
different.
be probably scared even more so of the ones leading the charge of AI. I think the politics, the big guys playing money with it, and those are the ones that are like controlling. But I don't know if that's like AI. It's human being humans, throughout history and trying to take advantage of things. So I think those are the ones to be scared of. It's like how they're dealing with this and what their agendas are for it. I think the technology is here and it can help a lot of things. And I feel very excited, even like when AI gets into the health industry to help us with precision, with things that's going to help us evolve and find cure, because I'm tired of like this program of like just treating things but not really like curing people. I think hopefully AI is going to help us to kind of like move the needle on that.
That's awesome. When we visited Deutsch the other day, we were impressed by how many people were there active, like really working. Like it was a busy office. Like, and we're so used to now to see offices that are kind of empty and people are working remotely. You guys are very, very active. Do you see more hybrid scenarios for creative workflows, like for agencies and all that? Do you see more in person? Where do you think you perform the best?
I think, well, that I think the energy at Deutsch, it says a lot about the people. I never stayed 7 years in the same place, and it says a lot about, you know, the people at Deutsch. They're really nice people to work with. There are struggles as any other place. There are challenges, and but I think when we make everything more human and more connected, I think that's where you see that energy come through. The hybrid space helps a lot of people and helps a lot of teams. For me, as a designer and my design team, we are full remote. And I think it's just the way we work. I think it's not because, the office doesn't help us. I think it's because designers are, you take that briefing and you like focus, you like to stay quiet, in your little cave and do your thing. I often go for the meetings, I go for the big things, but I think for the design team, it's been helpful to work from home and more productive because we have the time to kind of like focus on the tasks. And designers, they are very hybrid in terms of, creative slash technical, so like I think being creative but also have that time to craft things, and be just like laser focused on it, it's really helpful. So like the office, like you said, there has a lot of energy, has a lot of it gets distracting for us.
A lot of
uh,
producers checking on everything.
Yeah, there is producers, there is strategy, there is account, and it's kind of like we just sometimes just need to be like the little corner and do our thing. And then, like, even when we before the pandemic, we used to have our little sort of separate things, and designers wearing all black. I even wanted to have like a office cat because like we want to just have because all designers have a cat for some reason. So like maybe I should have like an office cat. There's just stay here and just us. We feed the cat.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
Like a Slack channel, there is just cats, and we are sharing pictures of cats. So it's
Nice,
fun.
nice. We're almost at time here, so the last question that I have for you, knowing that you are one of the best creatives that we know and everything, like you think of the future and you kind of live in the future, like PJ too, like testing things and all that. Where do you see the creative agency? I know it's a hard question, but where do you see the creative agency world, the creative industry in 5 years, 10 years from now? How the creation process will be in your mind?
It's a hard one. Um, I think we'll be focused more and more, which is a good thing. It's like we'll be focused more and more in the creative idea, in the strategic idea and the needs, less so in the making of things. I think making is still going to be part of it, like, but it's going to be more of you set out a couple templates, you set out a couple things, and then let the machine run. Uh, but that will give us more time to think upfront and prepare things up front, prepare templates, and kind of like really spend time creating that thing that is going to become modular. And then kind of like from that, you can allow the system to kind of like expand. And like we're going to craft a bunch of lines, we're going to craft a bunch of images, we're going to craft a bunch of setups. and then that'll be feeding a system that the system go in and kind of like produce that material based off almost like a one-to-one communication. I think we're going to get to a point that is kind of like a brand is going to be talking to Damien specifically, like, Damien, what do you think about this? It's not going to be like today we have a lot of like channels and kind of like we talk to this crowd, we talk to this, Gen Z or whatever. I think it's going to be more of a like almost like a one-to-one kind of thing. And it's very interesting, like just think about
Wow.
that, like the amount of assets that's going to come out from that. So like I think that AI is really going to help with that step.
Yeah, maybe those assets can be generated at runtime, right? They don't have to be created upfront. They can be almost like a video game. You have the, as you said, the templates, the business rules, and then all the visuals will be created at runtime. That would be amazing. And I don't know if we have space for phones and all that. Maybe we'll not be like 5 years from now. We're not gonna have phones anymore, right? There's so much. One thing that reminds me of that this point that you brought about hyper personalization of things is that humans are social creatures, right? They need other humans to live, to interact, to live longer. There are a ton of studies saying that if you don't have a community, if you're alone, like you're gonna die early. That's proven there. And there's a lot of opportunities with when you experience something and you can share with others, then it's fun. Then it creates that social. Then it's like it's almost like watching the same movie gives me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and then we connect and all that. Do you see a threat in hyper personalizing things and kind of the Vision Pro, for example? I have a Vision Pro here. Never used it pretty much like for the last 30, 40 days. I see things, but I cannot share with anyone. That's so frustrating. Like, how do you see that challenge of hyper personalizing, but also kind of breaking that social aspect?
Yeah, I think the hyper personalization it's going to be in terms of kind of like almost like be able to talk to you and kind of like get you excited as long as it's shareable, right? Like what your point, as long as we can, like, let's say a brand says something to me or show me something and I'll be like, look what I can get from this, and then I talk to another person and that person's going to get the same or like a version of it. I think that that's truly important, because otherwise it's not fun. Like when you buy a limited edition product, if you make like a limited edition of one, but if you make a limited edition of 100, like a
Yeah.
hundred people is gonna have that. So I'm included in that community that has 100, like, so like I think that's what is the value in this. Like we're always looking for those things.
Nice.
Like not a lot of people likes to go to the movies and watch a movie by themselves. So
Yeah.
like I think it's just understanding the human behavior and adapting. But I do think like um, at least the capability to talk to one-on-one is gonna get there, and it's gonna be a thing.
And you don't see AI as a threat, like in 5, 10 years, it's gonna kill us all and it's gonna end the world
I've
like
been
this.
I've been polite to it. Like I always say please. I always say
You say
thank
please.
you. And like at least you should spare me and my family. Hopefully. Uh, I don't know. I think it's hard to say. I think it's a weapon. It depends on which hand is holding it. So
Yeah.
I guess it's hard to tell, and it gets very dystopian if you think about it. So I I I think it's kind of like it's a risk, but anyway, I mean it's something
We're
we got.
choosing.
deal with.
We're choosing the optimistic side. Like
Yeah,
we see we're positive human beings. That's
bright
cool.
side of chaos. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Ademas, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
insights, for your thoughts, especially in this world of AI where things are very new, very different. Really appreciate your time, and yeah, have a great day. And how can people find you if they wanna follow
It's
you and all that?
Thank you. It's super easy. At Adhemas, Adhemas. You can find me. Like nobody has this name, so I can get all the the names on all the socials. So Adhemas, you can find me on Instagram and Behance and my portfolio, adhemas.com.
That's awesome. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ademas. Have a great day. Talk
You too.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
As a creative professional working with clients and peers, I often find myself in a loop, constantly typing out feedback on multiple devices and tools. Discovering Pacto has allowed me to eliminate typed feedback and instantly send a recorded video with my action items. With Pacto, I can easily review videos, websites, images, 3D files, and audio files. My feedback can then be sent as a link with clear action items faster than any other tool out there. Pacto has changed my daily lifestyle. I now have more time than ever to do what I love most.